Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? We're coming to you guys live from the FTC Soundstream, the Sound of Five Towers College as well. But this is Aaron Jones, and this is Through the Tunnel. This is where people tell their truth, not the highlight reels, but the things that people don't get to see behind the scenes. That type of pressure that helps builds diamonds per se. And it's all about the grind before things get kind of scary throughout struggle. So for this tunnel in particular, I have an amazing guest. Somebody that is a mentor to me and a mentor to a lot of other students and just humans and people in general, because this guy gives great knowledge upon anything that in life if you want to speak upon that. And I'm talking about Professor Stephen Kass. How are you doing today, Professor?
I'm doing great, Aaron. I appreciate you having me on here.
But how are you doing today, Professor?
I'm doing great, Aaron. Having a good day. Had a good day of teaching today, and really excited to come here and talk to you. You were a great student. I enjoyed having you, and glad to be here.
No, I honestly, I really do appreciate you having you on, because a lot of people don't understand how important mentorship and just people in general are a part of life, especially when you want to level up and just evolve as a human being. So as you go through, right, the storm, you start from the beginning, and the beginning is all about that quiet before the storm. Mm-hmm. A lot of the eerie sounds that a lot of people won't see or won't hear unless they truly want to go on to that journey. And for the first question, before the titles, businesses, or just a classroom, who were you as a young man?
Okay, so as a young man, I grew up in a family of four boys and a mom and dad who were very, very strict. Mom was from the Midwest, was valedictorian of her school, and she was a very, very strict Catholic woman. And my dad was a quiet man who I struggled with in my relationship. Anyway, so there's four boys. We were all 2 years apart, so there was always this competition going on. My parents worked very hard. They saved all their money. Everything that they could save, they would put away to help put us all through college. And that was their ultimate goal. That was a mindset in my family, that success and going to college, all this was a family expectation. So very early, my parents made us all earn our own money. So they sent us out to do paper routes. I was 11 years old when I took on my first paper route, delivering papers after school. I liked money. I liked when I collected money from the paper route, so I decided to start my own thing. And I started mowing lawns for my customers. As I got to 13, 14 years old, I would ask my paper route customers if they needed some work. So I take my lawnmower, grab it on the back, I'd sit on my bike and I ride a couple miles to the first house and go mow the lawn and make money doing that. So that was, I guess, my first business. That was very successful. I made money, never lost money. It was a good job and it was fun. But who was I as a person? Most people find it really hard to believe that I was an incredibly introverted and insecure kid. And I'm not saying a kid. This is something that went through most of my life. And the subject here is tunnels, and the one overarching tunnel of my entire life. I've had several tunnels that I've had to make my way through. And the one was this painful introversion and insecurity I had when I was a kid. I was the quietest kid in my entire high school. And I just was, I felt like I was plagued by this deep, sad, paralyzing feeling that everybody in the world was better than me. Like I just had this feeling of insecurity that I couldn't shake. I was the quietest kid in my elementary school. I was bullied for 3 years in junior high school because I wouldn't talk. And then through high school, I still was so quiet. I just wouldn't talk. I hardly had any friends, only my neighborhood friends, a couple of them. But I was just so quiet. This was my first tunnel. And I want to say, because this is something I think I wrote to you about, is that tunnels, and we try to define what a tunnel is, right? And I think we all think of our tunnel as this big setback or life difficulties that you have, and we all go through some of them at some point, right? But and it's a great analogy, and I love it for the program. I really think you hit the spot on this one. You really did. It's human interest. It's real. It's authentic. It's great. But just defining a tunnel for me isn't like a lot of people think of something like the Midtown Tunnel, where you drive through the Midtown Tunnel. You come, there's a tunnel. Oh no, I'm going into a tunnel. You go through it, and then 5 or 10 minutes later, you come out of the tunnel, and okay, life's all the same again. But this kind of tunnel is not like that. That's the problem. Well, that's the feature of a life tunnel, is that you're going through it for a lot longer than 5 or 10 minutes. The pain and the things that you go through in there are very, very, very intense for everybody that goes through it. And you can say, oh, I went through a tunnel, but no one really understands it except for you, exactly what you went through. So this overarching tunnel I had was a tunnel I've been working to come out of through my whole life. And it took me to almost 50, I'd say about 50 years old, till I started to feel comfortable in my own skin, where I felt like I started having some real confidence. I was faking it my whole life. I believed in fake it till you make it. But it was tough. It was really tough. So anyway, these tunnels, they have profound effects on us that we can learn and grow from, or we could just curl up and die from, right? So anyway, so my goal was to stop this thing, to stop this voice in my head that always told me I wasn't good enough. It emanated from my father from when I was young, right? And both my parents, but really my father in that relationship. So my trying to fight that feeling set the course of my entire life. So I started challenging myself. So we talk, how do we get out of tunnels, right? I started challenging myself to do the things that helped me break out of who I was and to help me become who I wanted to be, right? I was sad. I was upset. I was lonely, right? And I didn't want to be there anymore. I didn't want to be afraid to talk to people, right? So basically I started challenging myself. And the first major challenge I did while I was in the tunnel, the height of this insecurity tunnel, was I went away to college. I had the choice of staying home or going away. I went away so that I would be forced to be away from the people, all the people I knew, and I was going to be forced to, communicate with people. And I got to college, started drinking with my roommates, and eventually I was okay. I developed some friends, and I started coming out of that tunnel just a little bit more, right? In grad school, I had the option to pay my tuition through a teaching assistantship or for a research internship. And I chose the teaching assistantship because I wanted to force myself to get out in front of people and talk. I had never talked in front of a group before I'd done this. So, so then after a job, I took a job in sales. Again, push myself. I mean, me in sales, I had no right going into sales as this insecure guy who's afraid of rejection and all that stuff. But I was forcing myself. I was challenging myself over and over again to break out of this place, this tunnel of fear and insecurity that I just was so miserable and so unhappy being in. So that was the start. After college, which college made and alcohol together made it easier to have friends and be social. After college, I found a job in sales. It was in the alcoholic beverages industry. I saw that. I was like, oh, alcohol. Okay, that'll make it easier to relate to people. So I got into that. I said, oh, okay, I could do this. And I got into that. I did pretty well.
I'm glad that you brought up that point about like sales and stuff like that, because that actually goes into the next question. During like your early corporate years, especially while you're climbing throughout that ladder with the sales and marketing, with marketing leadership, what did success mean to you back then, and how much of your identity was it tied to achieving things?
That's a good question. My first priority in life was always being a family man. I got married early. I got a wife. I actually got my first job in the alcoholic beverage industry on the day I met my wife-to-be. So my life changed completely in one day. I started a new job, and I met the woman that I was going to end up marrying. So my first priority in life, my first identity, the first thing I always considered myself was a family man, was a husband, was a father. And those were the most important things to me in my life. It was important because I came from a family that stayed together in spite of everything, and it was important to me, but I just felt like I owed it to the people that were in my life, that I had to be there and be good for them. So that was my personal self. So success meant being a good husband and a great father first, and then came the work goals, right? But then I felt I had a lot to prove, right? I was awkward, but I worked harder than anybody around me to prove myself. I was trying to prove myself to everybody, especially my dad. You have that, and trying to get his approval, which, either comes or in my case didn't come. But anyway, your choice at that point is either to accept that you're never going to have his approval or to go ahead and move on and look for approval within yourself. And that's what I started to do. So in that job, I was promoted twice in 2 years into management, but I wanted more. I wanted my own business. I always felt like that lawn mowing business, I always felt like that was a bug, an itch, something I always needed to try to overcome and that I wanted. I always wanted to be my own businessman. So, and I didn't want to report to a boss. In part because I was afraid of bosses. I was afraid of anybody older than me, anybody taller than me, anybody smarter than me. I was afraid of anybody in a position of authority. All right. And that had to do with my dad issues again. But that's how I felt. But so I wanted to be a business owner. So I didn't have to report to any bosses. I was the boss. No, I didn't have to report to anybody. Right. That was part of it. The other was I just truly, genuinely wanted my own business. So I started a side business. And it went pretty well. So while I was working, I started the side business, and it really started to take off, and things were going pretty well.
Honestly,
for the next question.
That is amazing to hear because, that's a funny point right there about the side business thing. There's one of the video games called Bully, and that's all he does, different side quests and stuff like that to figure out how to make money while living at a school or something like that per se. And,
okay.
And just honestly, even just listening to what you're saying, you always had that drive, that attack, that niche to just do something.
Yeah. Yep. I absolutely did. It was always just a part of me to do something on my own, to create something on my own. So anyway, here I am. I'm 28 years old. I'm married, I have a baby, and I start my first business. I would, and this was against my character, my introverted character, start going door to door to small businesses and soliciting business. I bought one of the world's first laser printers. Everything was being done in print shops, but laser printers had come out. Apple computers with the graphics and everything had just come out. Nobody had it. I in grad school, was the first time I was ever able to create a resume. That was like a brand new world. Most people had to go to a printer and get the resume done, which cost hundreds of dollars because they had to typeset it with these little things. But I started this business where I could solicit printing jobs, bring them to a printer, get them printed, and make money. So I made all my money on, I'd go to an Italian restaurant, I'd make their menu, right? I'd design it about 10 times faster than a printer could design it, and then send it to a printer and have it all printed up, colorized, and all that kind of stuff. So it started off great. I was going door to door, getting business, and it was coming fast. I was like, even though I was introverted, I was excited because people were happy to see me. A lot of people actually wanted the services, and I was selling business cards and all this and whatnot. So I was reading a lot of business magazines back then. I was reading this magazine called Entrepreneur. And in Entrepreneur, they kept talking about how to have your own business, you have to do this, this, and this. And one of the things they kept talking about was you have to have a risk. You can't be risk averse. You have to be willing to accept risk, right? And I just kept reading that. You have to be willing to accept risk and say, I can accept risk. I can do this. I didn't research the way I should have. And I quit my job to go full time into this thing because I saw it taking off so quickly. I didn't want to work. I had the bug so bad. I was like, I'm quitting. I didn't do any research. I didn't do a financial plan. I just said, I'm going all in on this, which was a really big mistake. I believe those quotes that all you need is to not be risk averse. And unfortunately, I quit my job, which I had a nice healthcare plan, a company car, expense account, and all these things that you get in certain types of sales jobs. And the first realization I had was a few months into it was, oh my God, healthcare is really expensive when you pay for it on your own. Really expensive when you've got a family of 3, right? So I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I saved them enough money for this. Then so I kept going and I was doing okay, but still concerned about money. But then my second terrible realization came that, hold on, I'm still me. I'm still introverted. I'm still afraid of talking and I can't keep it up for a long period of time. So I started, as I was driving to get business, I started sitting outside of stores and not going in because I just didn't want to go in. I had lost a nerve, So this is something I thought I had gotten past, but quickly I was reminded that, no, you still have a long way to go till you're out of this introversion thing, you know? So then the third thing was, and this was devastating, which happened within probably about a year after I started the business, was, oh my God, I can't bring in jobs fast enough to feed my wife and my baby or even turn on the heat. I got to a point where the heat wasn't on. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And after 2 years, I got to 2 years and I was like, oh my God, my dream is failing spectacularly. And it not only humbled me, but it reinforced that voice in my head, that voice that set me back into another really, really deep tunnel. So I had this overarching tunnel, then I had this very specific tunnel, which was I failed that as a businessman, right? So I had a depression that lasted me for over a year. After the business went bust, I swore that I was done having any businesses. That business doing this brought me nothing but pain. I mean, you don't know the pain that I went through losing your business. I grieved, and I thought, I can't do it. And then my next thought was, oh my God, they were right about me, meaning especially my dad. So that was a really tough moment in life right there, Aaron.
Nah, honestly, what you're speaking upon, Professor, is like moments that I'm facing as a younger individual. Yeah. That expectation of like, everything could be all great, and then all of a sudden it could fall flat on your face.
Yeah.
But as I watch in front of my face somebody that was able to continue to keep on pushing, keep on going, keep on striving, because you basically just answered the next question I was going to ask you about humbling.
Yeah.
Humbling is a very important piece in life, just in general. Can you explain more and elaborate more on just the humbling aspect?
Yeah. It's funny because when I first started, I started to really grow in confidence with the business, you know? But when you get to a point where, oh my God, it's not working, all of a sudden you have to come to terms with all your weaknesses again. And I've gone through so many periods of my life where I've been overconfident and underconfident. And the overconfidence is always kind of like a forced overconfidence. It's like I'm on a good roll, so I get overconfident, but that hasn't happened in a long time. I've learned to taper your overconfidence and be confident, which is all good, but not overconfident. And preparation is really important. So yeah, I was really humbled. So let's see, where are we at?
Humbling is a very important piece because Professor Kass actually gave me a really nice list of songs, and I was actually truly listening them through because that's what I like to do with the guests when I have them on. Have them send me 10 songs that's meaningful to any parts throughout their life. That was a beautiful song choice by Professor. We were just talking about it. What did you say about this song? What does it mean to you, Professor?
So I was 7 years old when this song came out, and I was just telling you, Aaron, that I bought it 4 times. I bought this 45 RPM record 4 times, so I wore it out 3 times. And I played it over and over again. To me, as a kid, when I was already struggling with these insecurity issues and these, the sadness that that was a result of it, I would play this song, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. I didn't know back then why it meant so much to me and why it was my favorite song ever and why I played it so much over and over again. But as we were talking, actually, as I was getting music ready for you, I played it again. I'm like, I know why now. Knowing my lifelong tunnel, that song to me is all about acceptance. You're accepting the raindrops. You're accepting that they're falling on your head. You're accepting that your feet are too big for your bed. You're accepting all the little things that go wrong and the big things that go wrong. And you're persevering. You're making it through. You're able to move on. You're able to see bright things. So it was acceptance, perseverance, and hope was all in that song. This simple song. And it really, really hit me, I think, and talked to my soul even when I didn't know what it was saying to it.
That is well put, Professor, because like going into the next segment, this next block, it's about moving through the dark. And like you said, you're going to be facing them things. You're going to put on shoes that's a little too big right now, a little uncomfortable right now, but eventually they're going to fit.
Yeah, true. It's true.
So for this first question for moving through the dark, when you experience like major financial loss or personal losses or whatever, personal changes and things like that, what are some steps that you took to like rebuild yourself, and not emotionally, but more so in the strategic aspect?
Okay, so that first thing, when I left that first job,
Yes.
so I had thankfully kicked butt in that job. I got promoted twice in a very short period of time into sales management. And on the day that I left to go start my business, the owner of the company wanted to talk to me to say, "Why are you leaving?" And I said, "I'm leaving because I want what you have. I want my own thing. So he goes, "I can appreciate that." He goes, "I get that." He goes, "You're not leaving for a competitor or anything, huh?" I said, "No, I'm just going to start my own thing." He said, "I'll tell you what, I wish you all the luck in the world, but if it doesn't work out, you come back here. We got a spot for you." So I was like, I walked out his door that day thinking, "Yeah, see ya." I'm never coming back. But when the business went down, I tucked my tail between my legs. I was depressed. I was down. I was shot. I had lost weight. I was feeling sickly. I had been depressed for a decent long period of time. I don't even want to talk about it. I moved down to Florida and back up. I mean, it was a tough period of time. But when I got back, I called the company and I got my job back. I went in and they took me right back where I was, full perks, full benefits, same salary, and I was back there. So once I got there, I was still licking my wounds. I was still feeling terrible. People were like shocked how skinny I had gotten and all these other things. But that's when I pushed through. That's when I realized that I have strength and I got to just keep pushing through. And one of the best answers is when you're in a place like that is work. Just work. That's what got me to where I was. That's what got me back into the place where I was. It was hard work that made them realize that we can bring him back. And then I talked about something in class today in my 275 class, and the word is grit. Okay? And the grit is, what grit is, right? That resilience, that you're willing to work your way through things. You don't give up, right? And I wasn't born with a lot of that, but I spent my whole life developing grit. And if anything helped me through those tunnels, it was this constant effort to make myself stronger and grittier, able to withstand these setbacks. So once I got back into the job and I had rebuilt myself and I was making good money again and got a couple raises and all that stuff, my company actually ended up promoting me to doing training for the company as well as managing people. But my strategy had changed. I still wanted a business, but now I was risk averse. And my job level, the salary had increased. My family had grown to 2 kids and my expenses had grown. So I couldn't afford to go out and go full time, unless I had something on my hands that was a real winner. So I made a determination at that time. My family was more important. I really do want a business, but I'm not going to sacrifice my family's security. I'm not going to sacrifice if I come up with a business idea that shows me as I'm working full time and I could do it part time, that's making money, and it gets to the point where it blows up big enough where I could take it to a full thing, then I'll do it. Never happened, but that's okay because I started a new business. I made a whole bunch of side money doing this side business. Ran its course, technologies changed, and I had to leave it. But while I was doing that, I was also moving up the corporate ladder at work. And now I had a new definition of success. Okay, the definition of success at this point, because I was doing really, really well. I mean, what I was making in my regular job, I was actually almost making the same amount in my side business. So, and it was growing, but then laws changed in the liquor industry. The business changed. They stopped what I was doing. They disallowed it for a while. I was going through hard times with my wife. We went through a separation and boom, in comes the second tunnel. Okay, because now I have to walk away from that business. My wife's not going. Things with my wife aren't going well. I'm going to lead you to my next tunnel. So I got through the first tunnel. Grit, resilience, bouncing back, fighting. Just working, just doing everything I can to come back. Right, and I'm there. But now it's 15, 20 years later, and I'm fighting with my wife. We've always had a bad relationship. I never cheated. I was always a very, very good family man. She never cheated. Those weren't ever our issues. Our issues were we just didn't connect. We were completely 2 different people, and it was a very toxic relationship. And that hurt me. A lot of what she did and said to me hurt me. So I turned to alcohol. I was in the alcohol business, and I partly blame my marriage. I partly blame my internal demons that I spoke to you about already, that I'd been struggling with my whole life. But I used to sell wine, but when they moved me and had me selling liquor, I learned how to drink hard liquor, and it was over from there, man. I learned how to drink hard liquor, and I just, it became my get away from everything. Get away from my marriage, get away from the fact that my business isn't working out, whatever. Actually, it was working out, but it stopped. We had to stop it, right? So it was a hard time. So my next tunnel happened in 2007. And that's when I got separated from my wife. I lived in that house, but in the basement. She lived upstairs. It was really awkward, really hard, really, really a struggle. And it was a deep tunnel because everything about me, my identity was based on my marriage and myself as a family man. And I saw it falling apart. And I was having a really, really hard time with it. And it almost broke me. So we were separated for about a year. Tunnel lasted almost 2 years. Kind of came out of it with some marriage counseling with my wife, tried to make things work. My kids were still young. I could never, even if I couldn't work things out with my wife, I could never picture not coming home to my kids and not being there for them, to help them through their lives. They still needed me, So I couldn't leave. I had to figure out how to make my marriage work. So we went for counseling. And eventually, by the way, in that time, I was talking about alcohol. I did become an alcoholic. I became a late age alcoholic. I wasn't one of those at 20 years old, but by the time I was 40 years old, I was a full-blown alcoholic. I couldn't stop. I was drinking every night. It was my escape every single night. I didn't do it during the day, but I came home at night, and every single night. It exasperated my family problems. It exasperated my marriage. And eventually I realized in order to fix this marriage, be home with my kids, and keep everything rolling, I need to quit drinking, right? So quitting drink, talk about grit. You want to quit drinking? Gather your grit and your resilience and quit drinking. And that's what I did. I've been dry for about 10, 12 years now. I haven't had a drink in about 12 years. And the beautiful thing about that was the ability to help other people. I gathered, as I was going through this, I learned how to help other people. I learned how to bring other people to the program, how to talk to people. I actually went through a phase not too long ago of helping people that needed to get help, needed to get into safe places to live. And I spent a long time, almost 2 years, helping people like that, and needed to get to meetings, needed to get to safe places to live, or get into a hospital for a recovery program or whatever it was. But anyway, for the next several years after that drinking episode, I had good. The outer world, as far as they were concerned, I was a complete success. A lot of people don't see what's going on when you're in these tunnels, And to everybody in the outside world, oh, look at him, he's got a great job. Oh, did you see his expense account? Oh, he's got another nice car, right? Oh, good job, promotion, side business, pretty wife, 2 great kids, nice house, right? All these things. Then I got a bigger house, I got a motorcycle, and I got a boat. All these things are coming with success, right? And money, and moving up the corporate chain, and doing these side businesses, right? Pool for the house. But behind the scenes, everybody thought, wow, look at this. And I'm saying the people I worked with, not necessarily everyone in my family, but the people I worked with were impressed. I was this businessman. I was a successful businessman finally. I'd moved up into corporate management. I was an executive sales manager, something I feared my entire life. I feared because I would have to talk to other managers. I got into a job where I started talking to business owners and corporate executives, and I had to make presentations to them, something I was afraid my entire life to do. And I finally, through grit, determination, and just saying, I'm going to bull my way through this, now I was finally able to do it. It wasn't easy, trust me. There were nights of crying my eyes out because, oh my God, I embarrassed myself and I can't do this. But I kept fighting, trying to learn to get myself. I wanted to get all the way out of this. I called it myself. I couldn't get out of myself. I couldn't get out of this shy guy, this insecure shy guy. And I finally was coming out of it. And that job finally did it for me. I finally broke out of it. I became a successful executive sales manager. And to me, that was like, I had everything. Like I said, the wife, the boat. I got a house. Right at the end, I bought a house on the Great South Bay with a dock, and it was gorgeous, a gorgeous house. It was like, this is it. I can die here. This is where I want to be. It lasted 3 years until my next tunnel.
And honestly, what you're saying there, Professor, is like one of the phrases that I've seen today. Successful people suffer in silence.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
they do. And I was married to someone that I couldn't talk to.
Yeah,
I didn't want to bring it to my kids. Yeah.
So for that question, for the next question is, after the executive positions, and you transition into a whole different realm
Yeah.
of development with products, digital marketing,
Yeah.
learning how to use AI to the highest level, and the most important one is teaching.
Yeah.
How did it feel like, or just explain how you were able to reinvent yourself?
It was from another tunnel. It was from the last one, the granddaddy of all tunnels, which is the one that landed me to where I am right now. And the granddaddy started in 2017 in May, when my nephew had a heroin overdose and died. And there had been talk about me having been through alcoholism, talking to my nephew, helping him through this, and we just never connected. And when he died, I felt so guilty that I didn't try harder to reach out to him, that, you know, that I wasn't there for him. I really felt like I could have helped him, and, you know, the guilt was racking me, but I didn't even know how bad it was racking me. It started making me think about the alcohol business and all the things I had seen in the alcohol business, the problems it had caused, the people whose lives it had damaged. Someone that worked for me almost died in the year before that, you know, from alcohol poisoning. People in the company weren't willing to help. It was like, I wanted to set up like an alcohol program, but it's like, I don't know, for whatever reason, it's not something they wanted to do. So I'm watching people die. I'm watching people get hurt. I knew my history of it hurting my family and hurting my children when I was going through it. And I developed this feeling that alcohol to me was I didn't want to sell it anymore. I felt like a pusher. You know, I felt like I was pushing people to do something that was harmful to them. And I started, especially in that last year, it started eating my soul. When I lost my nephew, like the job was just eating my soul from the inside out. During that same year, I got in issues with my boss. I had a new boss, a new regime had come in. I've been doing this for 30 years, had the most successful divisions everywhere I went. And he came in and he decided he just wanted to start firing people because he wanted to send messages. People I'd worked with for 30 years. I couldn't do it. We got into fights. It didn't go well for me. So by the end of it, the end of 2017, I'm fighting with my boss. I'm fighting with my wife. I mean, barely talking to my wife. We're separated in all intents and purposes. We're not really together. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of fighting. My whole life is in upheaval. Nephew, job, wife, got rheumatoid arthritis. I lost my hip, had to have my hip replaced. It dislocated 3 times, intense pain, trips to this emergency hospital, all this stuff all going on within a period of a year. And I just kind of lost it. Like, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I got to the point where I couldn't do my job. I was like, my soul was from the marriage. I felt like everything was a lie. My marriage was a lie. My job was a lie. This isn't what I really want to do. I don't believe in what I'm selling. And it got to a point where my boss and I it came to an agreement where the company had a settlement. They terminated me. I got a wrongful termination settlement, and that lasted me for a bunch of time. So now I'm out of that company, and now I'm in my deep, deep tunnel. I'm like, what do I do now? I'm 55 years old. I was planning on retiring at 65, you know? I was right about to buy the second house down south, you know? I was really ready to and now I got to split everything. I got to sell the house. I got to share the money with my wife, and I don't know what to do. I can't go back to alcohol. I came to the realization I can't go back in that business. I can't. So for 2 years, that's when I was helping people, because I was like, I got to do something, and I'm retired for the next 2 years. So I took 2 years off, and I just helped people. You know, I found people that needed help with, whether it was drugs. I had a heroin addict that I was helping. I had people with alcohol issues. I had a young girl who needed to get into a facility, but none of them were taking her. I was there for her legal help. So I spent 2 years doing that to regain myself, my purpose, my self of sense, my self of purpose. Yeah. So that's what I did. And then I said, okay, I need a job. I can't do this forever, right? I kind of got burnt out even doing that, helping people. So I was like, I need a job. I need to get, you know, I need to get back into life, and I need to do something, but I need to do something good, and it can't be an alcohol. So I started throwing resumes out. I threw out 10 resumes, 100 resumes, 200 resumes, and I'm not getting calls back. I'm 55, 56, 57 years old at this point. all I've done is alcohol my whole life. There's no positions in sales that they want to hire a 57-year-old guy who has only alcohol experience. That's what I found out, So I was really struggling, and I didn't know what to do. So it came to a point where I was like, as I was applying for the sales jobs, and I had gone on a couple interviews, I was like, I don't know that I could do sales anymore. So I had to walk away from sales. So at that point, I realized that I needed skills. I needed to develop skills. And that's when I started working on developing skills. It started with my brother teaching me how to write patents. He's a lawyer. And that morphed into, I did that with him for a while. That morphed into me learning how to do 3D modeling, which I did for a company, a friend who was developing a business. I did some of his social media. So I went from there. And then I got this interview, which came out of nowhere. I was still struggling, but I was fighting my way back again. You got to keep fighting your way back. So I finally, I landed this job, which was a godsend. I was supposed to go for consumer behavior, but when they saw my technological background and my ability to work with AI, honestly, it was my AI that they kind of said, we need you for social marketing, social media. And that's how I ended up here.
That is beautiful said, because you already answered majority of the questions I had through the tunnel moment. But my only other question for you, because you are an older statesman, right?
Yes.
With all this technology.
Yeah.
What did it feel like to actually sink your teeth into this new generation of technology?
Oh, it wasn't that hard for me, because I've always been one of the more technologically advanced people and everywhere where I've worked. I dove more into the company programs and analysis and all that kind of stuff. So I was pretty good at it already, and I have done a little bit of this stuff. But there was still a lot of self-teaching. But I wasn't afraid of that. I'm not afraid to teach myself, and I have the resilience and I have the desire. I had the desire, and as soon as I landed this job, it started my complete exit from that last tunnel. And even the tunnel that I fought through my whole life is gone. I've finally beaten that insecurity. That I'm not saying it doesn't happen every now and then. We all get our insecurities every now and then. But I finally beat it, man. And it was resilience, grit, and just keeping going, keeping the faith that you can do it. You got to believe in yourself. You really do. And if other people don't believe in you, forget about them. You have to find the faith in yourself. And that's what helped me rebound, was the faith in myself. Eventually I reshaped my future just by doing that. I turned I turned deep. I went deep every time, found that grit, found that resilience. And now I'm back. And you just keep moving. You just keep working. You keep learning things, and you try not to stop. Trust me, when you're in that tunnel, when you get out, it's okay to go through the phases of death, grieving. I grieved every tunnel. I spent time in a tunnel, in the grieving process, and I let myself grieve. Then you turn the grieving into, okay, what can I learn from that? And then, okay, what positives did I get out of that? And you got to try to work your way through it and out of it. But the key is you got to keep changing your thinking. You got to get out of that negative spiral down thinking and turn it into, find your way to positive thinking and faith in yourself. And that's what did it for me. That's what got me out of the tunnel, Aaron.
I love how you said that about just staying positive, always reinforcing that inside of yourself, because that is one of the things that a lot of generations deal with, just not having that inability or just being somewhat incapable of installing you could do it, you got it, you can do it, strive for greatness, or just do it like Nike would say or something like that. That's why I truly respect you, honestly, that's Professor, because when I took your class, it was a pretty dark time for me. I can't even deny it. I lost my uncle literally 2 days before my birthday, and it did not register to me until during the midterm week. I'm like, oh shoot, that really happened. Yeah. And like you say, I showed up every day, still going through all the motions of trauma and of grieving stages and stuff like that.
That's right.
So it's I really do appreciate, because the main important thing is actually seeing the light. Yeah. And when you truly accomplish that, when you visibly see the light, it feels really, really freaking great. It does. Really does.
It may take a while to get there. I'm so proud of you, Aaron. I remember that semester very well. And I remember talking to you after a bunch of classes. And I was proud of you then that you were pulling yourself together, because I saw it in your eyes. I could see it in everything, your body language and everything. And to see you in the halls, like you're bursting with energy now, you're feeling good, and like that's the way it goes, you know. Got to keep in mind. And one of the things I did when I was in my tunnels, think about it's not always going to be this way. Have faith it's not going to always be this way. You know, if I look back at my life, every 5 years, things are way different than 5 years before. So when I was in my tunnel in my worst spots, I kept telling myself 5 years from now, it ain't going to be like this. It's not going to be like this. I'm going to keep working. 5 years from now, it's not going to be like this. Then I laid back in bed.
So before we wrap up, my last final questions to you, Professor.
Yeah.
During some of the lowest moments of throughout the tunnel, throughout life, what is some advice that you could give to the others that's going through that lower stage of life right now?
Good question. Good question. Well, we talked about grit already, right? We talked about changing your mindset, you know, intentionally changing your mindset. But here's some words from AA, which I don't go to anymore, but I believe in it big time, and I would go back if I ever needed it. But words from them: accept the things you cannot change the things you can, and develop the wisdom, or have the wisdom to know the difference. Know what you can change what you can, know the wisdom, have the wisdom to know the difference. Stop being so hard on yourself. That's me. Stop being so hard on yourself. This will not last forever. You will feel better again. 5 years from now, everything changes. The only way to find your grit, the only way out is to find your grit and keep trying. It's the only way out of the tunnel. Find your grit and keep doing, keep trying like you did. You kept working, you kept coming to class, you kept talking to me, you kept building skills, right? You built this skill starting there, if not before, but you built that skill. So that's my words of advice.
That's amazing, because listen, guys, yes, I have built this skill, but it's all based on the people that I have around me, like Professor himself, Professor Kass. Listen, one saying that gets said a lot quite often: a village raises a person. Truly, and that's from Daryl. Shout out to Daryl Rose. That was an amazing episode. But
Daryl's a good man.
Thank you, Professor. I truly appreciate having you on, because the words of your wisdom that you give is quite remarkable. And I hope everybody's in that business 275 class pay attention, because this man could give you gems and you don't even realize it.
They got some big gems coming too. Don't worry.
But again, I really do appreciate having you on tonight, Professor. And listen, guys, throughout your tunnel, you're going to hit a few things, a few bumps in the road, but you're just trying to see that light. You're trying to get to that destination, that idea, that dream that you had as a kid, and you want to truly achieve it. So again, this is Aaron Jones, and this is Through the Tunnel podcast. Thank you for having one of the best people in my life that I know on, Professor Kass. I truly do appreciate you.
That's nice. I really appreciate you, Aaron. Thank you.
I won't burn unless you're there, you're there. Ooh.
那我们说几月